Remember the crazy cunt who openly admits to organising the Berkeley riots? Well, guess who I ran into?
So, you did a bunch of interviews after and you were asked about this, and you were, to your credit, I think, very straightforward about it and unapologetic, and you said, yeah, this guy was a fascist, Milo's a fascist, and we shut him down. You didn't pretend otherwise. We shut him down, and that's what you do with fascists. I think I'm characterizing what you said correctly.
You're characterising what she said perfectly, Tucker. Didn't you know? Everyone's a fascist nowadays.
Just so we can understand the standard here, what is a fascist?
Oh, this'll be good.
So a fascist is someone who's organizing a mass movement that's attacking women, immigrants, black people, other minority groups in a movement of genocide. That's what a fascist is.
Wrong. Fascism is a governmental system led by a dictator, having complete power and forcibly suppressing opposition as well as criticism, regimenting all industry and commerce and emphasising an aggressive nationalism which often leads to racism. Donald Trump is not a dictator. He was elected democratically. He doesn't have complete power because he's only 1/3 of the US government. He doesn't suppress opposition or criticism because if he did, you'd be dead. The US is the capitalist juggernaut of the world, so its industry and commerce certainly isn't under fascist rule. And while Donald Trump does support nationalism, he isn't aggressive with that belief, plus the fact that it's not racist to be a nationalist. You can have a nation of multiple races and cultures, such as the US, and still be a nationalist. There's nothing wrong with having pride in your country. So when you call these people fascists, you're quite fucking incorrect, aren't you?
So it's someone who's committing violence?
And it's someone who's committing violence and who's trying to organize other people to commit violence.
Okay.
And Milo Yiannopoulos is a fascist.
Okay. So he's committed acts of violence against the protected groups you mentioned?
Well, what he's doing is he's trying to be the youth face and the token that other people who are organizing violence try to hide behind. And
Right.
so in all of his talks all over the country, what Yiannopoulos has done is whip up a whole lynch mob mentality.
Well, what the fuck is it you're doing then, bitch?
Where people who come to see him or his supporters not only agree with his views, but also attack other people. And that was certainly true in Washington state when one of his supporters came and actually shot an anti-fascist protester.
Yeah. What happened was, a Milo supporter shot one of the people who opposed their views totally unprovoked, with no fear for their life whatsoever. Yep, no self-defence went on there. That cunt just whipped out his gun and started firing off rounds for shits and giggles.
But in Berkeley, we made sure that didn't happen because we were able to shut him down.
So, but you're conceding that Milo himself has not committed acts of violence, and nor has he incited violence by the legal definition. He'd be in jail if he did.
Whoa, cunt. That's racist. He's been going around saying shit we don't want to hear. If that's not an act of violence, I don't know what is.
You know, fascist movement takes many forms.
Do any of those forms include actual fascism?
But Yiannopoulos isn't just a stand-up comedian, and he isn't someone who just has ideas and posts them up on YouTube. He's someone who is funded by Breitbart and Steve Bannon to go around to college campuses to try to recruit other young people to then conduct those attacks on his behalf and on Trump's behalf. But I'm really, really glad to say that thousands of us were out there last week, or February 1st, and made sure that
we got all the attacks in before he had the chance to.
So what should we do with fascists? I mean, if you think that someone is espousing genocide, what should we do with them? I mean, should that person be allowed to walk free? Should we put him in jail? Should we kill him? Should we exile him? I mean, it's a sincere question. If you're willing to use violence because you think someone is espousing genocide, what's the penalty for that?
An interesting question there, Tucker. Let's see if she bothers to answer it.
Well, first we've got to make sure we nip it in the bud, and we make sure that they're not allowed to recruit and act as if it's respectable to call for the mass murder of millions of people, in fact, millions who make up the majority of people in this nation at this point.
Oh, what do you know? She didn't bother to answer it.
What should we do with the fascist who you believe is inspiring genocide?
So first of all, the alt-right is a neo-fascist movement, And they're trying to hide behind some softer versions of their more open counterparts who identify themselves as Nazis. But they're still part of the same movement, first of all. Second of all, when someone is trying to speak at a campus or at a rally, they're doing it not just because they have an opinion, but someone like Yiannopoulos or any other alt-righter or fascist or neo-fascist is doing it to recruit other people. No, we don't let them recruit. And in fact, when you look back at the Holocaust and the lessons that we draw from that, we don't say, oh, well, at least we let them voice their opinion. We say never again.
You crazy, crazy cunt. Answer the fucking question. What do we do with fascists? You know why she's not answering this, don't you? It's because if she says something like, execute them or incarcerate them, it makes her sound like the fascist she is on national television. Not so honest in her convictions after all, then.
You're not answering my question. That people like Milo, who you've decided are fascists, should be allowed to speak in public. You said they weren't allowed to speak at Berkeley.
He should not be allowed to speak in public
corner
to spread his racist and misogynistic and homophobic lies. No, he does not have the right to do that.
What about
when he's using his speech to whip up attacks on people? No, he doesn't have the right to do that.
So
and to spread lies about our humanity? No, he doesn't.
Okay.
You ever notice how we never get any examples from these twats?
So you're a middle school teacher, which may surprise some of our students.
It fucking surprises me, cunt. I had no idea this fruitcake was a fucking teacher. Unbelievable. The fact that you think you live and work in a fascist nation, but you're also allowed to go onto national television and say all the shit that you're saying, is crazy. And I don't mean like, aw, girl, you so cray-cray. I mean, legitimately crazy. And you're allowed to teach kids. My kid would be out of that school so fucking fast, she'd go back in time. Just to get her away from this psycho.
The First Amendment was always kind of the cornerstone of American civic life, the idea that you have the right to say something that other people may vehemently disagree with, but you have that right. It's enshrined in the Bill of Rights. Do you teach that to your students?
The First Amendment is about free speech, but that's not an abstraction. And if there was someone in my classroom who was espousing rape or genocide or attacks on Muslims, I would certainly make sure that I stood up for the rest of my students and told them they need to stop. And if they refused to, they would need to leave.
Did you hear that? I've never heard anyone backpedal so fucking fast. I would certainly make sure that I stood up for for the rest of my students.
I would certainly make sure that I stood up for the rest of my students.
Says a lot about a person when they can't get their thoughts away from themselves as individuals. It's almost as if she's a selfish, vindictive bitch.
Would you hit him?
In fact, fascism isn't just about abstract. No, I'm not finished though yet, and I'm not finished yet.
She's not fucking finished, Tucker. Don't be misogynist.
So if there was a student in your class who started espousing what you believe is fascism, and you said you need to leave, you need to be quiet, you need to leave, and he didn't leave, would you hit him as you hit that protester? Would you beat him up?
No, of course not. But that's not what we're talking about here. We're talking about people who, you know what? In Sacramento, there were fascists who had knives tied at the ends of sticks, and they stabbed people, including us.
Not the man that you hit. He looked kind of unarmed to me.
Oh, yes, actually, they did. And it's funny to you, but it's actually not funny to the rest of us. And that's why we take this really seriously.
So you want us to believe that you all mobbed one man whilst he was armed? Yvette, you're either a liar or you're an idiot. You don't attack someone who has a knife or a gun or any weapon. That's a great way to get yourself killed. So what say you, fellow Nazis? Is Yvette an idiot? A liar? Or both? There should be a poll showing up at the top right corner of the screen. If you answered with either A, B, or C, you are correct. Send me your name and address on a postcard, and I will send you 1,000 swastika stickers to hand out to your friends and family. Enjoy, you filthy, disgusting pigs.